Osu is a rhythm game, so it should be pretty apparent that clicking the notes on time is kind of an essential part of playing Osu. I see a lot of new players focus solely on how mechanically well they can click circles and not if they can click them on time, which is fine and all for the sake of fun, but when it comes to improvement, this is kind of the worst thing that you can do. This is my profile around the time that I hit 5-digit, and no, your eyes are not deceiving you, my profile AC is 73.31. It's completely awful. Now, looking at my profile from the time of recording, it doesn't have these problems at all. So we're going to look at how I got this problem in the first place, and how I eventually fixed it over time. As you can tell, this is targeted towards mostly new players, or people who are in a similar situation to where I was. Now, I don't consider myself an authority on what is right and what is wrong for Osu improvement, so take what you will from it. This is completely from my personal experience. What you're seeing right now is a clip from when I was still very new to the game. I was someone who looked at the value of someone's skill as how well they could click the circles and their mechanical skill, never really caring about accuracy at all. And when you don't care about something, you tend to neglect it, and that's exactly what happened. The mechanical skill shown in this clip is pretty good for a new player, but the accuracy is absolutely abysmal. I continued like this for almost an entire year of playing, and while my accuracy naturally did get better, it was nowhere near where it should be, and well below average. Now, I think the root cause of this is just not caring about accuracy, at least in my case, but there is another factor which plays into it, which I think is playing maps that have a star rating that is way too high for your current level. This is something that I did constantly, and I see it with a lot of new players. I've heard it be coined as 6-digit 8-star syndrome. A lot of people, and specifically new players, look at skill not as by how well you can play the map, but if you can pass a map, which was entirely the case for me. New players will often, instead of trying to polish their gameplay and become really consistent on lower star maps, they will try to go for the higher star passes on 6, 7, or 8-star maps, which again was entirely the case for me. Now, I'm not saying that this is entirely a bad thing. I think that playing for passes is actually really fun, and I still do it to this day, but there's not really a doubt in my mind that if you're trying to actively improve at the game, you should focus on being consistent and making sure you can FC maps at your level with high accuracy before you go on to play those harder maps that are going to push you to your limits. Again, I'm not trying to bash on anyone that does play for passes, but I do think if you're trying to become a consistent and well-rounded player, it can lead you to form bad habits, and that is exactly what happened to me. Because I thought playing high star maps was the measure of my skill, I never actually got consistent on lower star maps. Meaning that, yeah, I could pass 7 stars and maybe a few 8-star maps, but playing 5-star maps I still couldn't get very good accuracy. And since I never had the skill to play those maps correctly, I ended up kind of gimmick passing them. So how did I end up fixing this problem of not being able to play low star maps consistently? Well, the answer is just that you have to rebuild your skills from the ground up. This happened to me when I finally switched away from mouse only and started playing with tablet and keys, but I never realized at the time that that's why my accuracy was going up. Since I never played with tablet or keys, I was kind of forced to relearn the game. Now, there was some skills left over, such as reading, but generally you just kind of have to start over and start playing the low star maps again. This isn't to say you shouldn't play high star maps if you want to. I'm just saying that if you want to be consistent and build up a better foundation so that you can play higher star maps later down the line without gimmicking them, you should focus on playing lower star maps and mastering those before you move on. I briefly mentioned that I didn't know this was happening at the time, and I didn't actually figure it out until I watched a YouTube video called Osu PhD, A Comprehensive Introduction to Every Skill by Digital Hypno. Now, this video has a ton of content, and most of it is more or less arbitrary to the point of this video, but one thing he said multiple times was to play lower star maps and really master that domain before you push on to more complicated maps and patterns. Hearing this is kind of what made me realize that I was doing that the entire time when I switched over to tablet, and that I could start replicating that process to help my other skills. I'll leave a link to that video in the description because it has so much more advice than I could ever provide or even know. But yeah, that's kind of it as to how you're going to fix this problem. There is no magical solution, you kind of just gotta brute force your way through the lower star maps. Now, what maps you play is totally dependent on you. You kind of just got to self-evaluate and really ask yourself what is going to be the most beneficial to you personally. But if I was going to give a strict guideline, I would say you should probably focus on 3-star maps at first, which you'll quickly be able to get out of. And then you should start focusing on 4 and 5-star maps until you can really make your accuracy and consistency a lot higher. Again, this is a process of rebuilding your skills from the ground up, but it's not relearning the game entirely from scratch, so it shouldn't take as long as if you were a complete beginner. But yeah, that's about it for my thoughts on why new players tend to get stuck in this bad accuracy loop, and how I think you should go about fixing it if you're stuck. This is something that I'm still working on myself, as I can pretty much ack jump maps, but finger control and stream maps still pretty difficult for me. But going back and playing slower streams or lower star finger control maps has really made a difference in my ability. It's still far from being good, but it's definitely improving. And I'm kind of confident that this is the way you should go about learning these skills correctly. But that's everything I have to say. Again, this is mostly based off my experience and what I find to be true. If you have differing thoughts or have any questions about something, feel free to comment and I'll try to respond. Thanks for watching, and if you're having an accuracy problem, best of luck with fixing it.